What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing? Hopefully good. Hopefully ready for another fun video. Or so I think, anyway. So, earlier today, Vegan Gains and this guy right here, Brave New World, is his YouTube channel, had an attempt at a debate. And it piqued my interest, so I figured I'd review it just a little bit, not the whole thing. I guess I could foreshadow the conflict, but why don't I just let the parties involved explain for themselves?
Debates that he had with you.
Okay, great. So let's kick things off. So basically, I argue veganism from the basis of human rights. I think it's like the idea of animal rights is a logical extension of human rights. If you
Okay. Well, he could be right. He could be right. But if you're debating a vegan and they make these grandiose claims, you have to contest them. Okay? Do animal rights logically follow from human rights? Well, I don't know. Animals are not humans, but let's hear this logic, right? You have to contest this point.
think it's wrong to needlessly harm and
They always say this needlessly, 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 as if there wasn't a need. That's another thing you have to contest.
kill a person. You should also think it's wrong to needlessly and harm and kill animals.
Obviously, when it comes to animals, killing people is generally needless.
So basically, my goal in the debate is either to point out a logical inconsistency in your own argument, or if you are going to be logically consistent, then I'm just going to point out how it leads to absurdity. You can have a completely logically consistent moral system, like claiming that it's okay to kill and torture anything, kind of like Destiny, but that doesn't it leads to absurdities like him agreeing that it's okay to holocaust like innocent tribes people and shit. So that's basically going to be my goal during the debate. So why don't you start things off?
I see. So, just to summarize, Vegan Gains believes that animal rights follow from human rights. He didn't say why or how, he just said it's logical. Lots of, I would say that's a huge logical leap. So you have to substantiate that. You have to contest this point he made, and yeah, I guess that's his central claim, and that's what I would have a problem with right off the bat. Like, whoa, because yeah, that's that's not how 99.9% of us look at this. So you got some explaining to do, buddy.
Well, I'm actually hoping for a debate that is more productive in the sense that we can debate about how vegan and veganism can spread all throughout the world. So that
Huh? Does this guy have like really bad acid reflux or something? What's going on?
veganism becomes more popular, becomes more mainstream, that you win over more people than are now actually being gained by vegans. So I actually, because the thing is, I am quite positive towards veganism and
Right.
I'm positive towards vegetarians. I think they're a great help to the world. I think
What? Who? What? That's a huge assumption.
if we could only get to a point in time in the future where there's more vegans and more vegetarians, I wouldn't be opposed to that at all.
So you have a practicing vegan and a guy that's pro veganism. What are they going to debate?
I actually
Okay,
think it's a good thing. I myself eat meat, and I am never gonna stop that. Um,
So I'm never going to stop eating meat, but I think the rest of the world should become vegan. The fuck?
and it's not because it's this great big huge principle of mine. I just
Acid reflux like a motherfucker. What's wrong with this kid?
I'm happy to defend eating meat versus.
Defend eating meat. This dude just cucked himself. What? Is this a real debate? Come on now. I mean, you have a vegan and someone that's pro vegan, but he's happy to defend eating meat. Now, why the hell would you do that in the first place? Why would you set the threshold so high for yourself? Defend eating meat. Why? You're a part of the 99.9% of the world that eats meat. And most vegans cheat anyway. So that's where I pulled out of that statistic. Yeah, it's out of my ass, but you get the point. You're the status quo, buddy. Your opponent in this debate is trying to revolutionize the entire world's diet. But you're gonna defend. Oh god, you should be going on the offensive, hardcore, man. You got the numbers on your side. What are you talking about? Stomp this cancer out while you can. Jesus.
Not eating meat, but I'm actually more for a more constructive debate where we can kind of look how to increase veganism and increase vegetarians because
What's with the giggling and laughing? Like this shit ain't real, is it?
I also think, for instance, that Devin Tracy is all for that. He, for instance, said in one of his debates with you, which weren't debates, I should say it correctly, but he said that he, for instance, loved a grilled aubergine over everything. So he loved grilled aubergine, and that's actually his favorite food. And he said multiple times that he's not against vegans,
yeah.
and he's not against you at all. So I don't really see um, the issue you have. Maybe we could also dive into that issue, but whatever you want. So let's just from
Cock. Whatever you want. I'll submit.
the
Well,
start of a debate, let's just put the parameters right so we can have a debate about something that you find worthwhile.
right. Well, I don't think there's any point in discussing how to make veganism more popular and have it spread. I think like we both have the idea that it's a good thing for it to spread. So that's not really particularly interesting, and I don't even know how valuable that discussion would even be right now. But like the topic of contention here is that you don't seem to think that veganism and avoiding unnecessary animal suffering and death is a moral obligation. Just like Devin Tracy, he thinks it's a good thing to not needlessly kill and harm animals, but he doesn't see it as a moral obligation.
Yeah, 99.9% of the world doesn't.
That's my problem with him. And you can say, "Oh, well, I support veganism and all this shit." Well, that's really just paying lip service to the idea. I mean, you can pretty much ask any like most pedophiles, like even people who have gone as far as raping children.
Anybody know any pedophiles? You could ask this. Anybody?
I'm sure most of them will say, like, if we could rid the
I'm sure most of them will say you can't just pull shit like that out of your ass and present your opinion as fact. That's just come on, man.
world of pedophilia, if there was some sort of antidote that would rid the world of pedophilia, then they'd be all for it. But they still rape children. Like,
Pure speculation, and it has nothing to do with. This is not even an argument.
it's just paying lip service to the fucking idea, and I think it's really a better debate to or a better discussion to have why you think it's not a moral obligation. Like you
All right,
just, it's
let's
not
do.
You see what he did there? Did I just hear an all right from Brave New World? So, vegan gains is basically playing a game or looking to play a game, the rules thereof he himself designed. And Brave New World is just cucking himself, playing himself, saying, yeah, all right, okay, whatever you want, boss. No, see, that's not how this works. The burden of proof is on the vegans. The status quo is eating meat. You're the revolutionary here. You're the one making these crazy ass claims saying that this is logic without providing any logic to back these claims that 99% of people out there disagree with. So the burden of proof is on you. You need to back these claims with logic, not just say it's logical, actually present the logic. But what he did is he just shifted the burden of proof on the great majority in this case, the meat eater. And it's just a game he's playing, and it's a logical fallacy because the burden of proof is on the vegan, not the meat eater. That's just how it works.
you have to do. Yeah.
Let's do that. All right. Let's
And this dude is just straight cucking himself. Oh, okay, whatever. I'll play your game. What the fuck?
do that. I have basically four arguments why I'm in favor of eating meat.
Sure.
And those four arguments are: food is enjoyable,
Weak.
it's delicious, I love it. The second argument is it's ingrained within our culture.
Well, you know what?
It's ingrained within our culture. That's not an argument.
Let's.
I just finished the four
Yeah, sure,
arguments.
sure.
So
The interaction between these two guys is, to me, it seems very contrived. Very. This debate, quote unquote debate, seems fixed. I don't know. It's just weird. All this smirking, this like. I don't know. It's like vegan gains already knows what's coming.
the second argument is it's ingrained within our culture. It's a cultural thing. It's been our cultural heritage and our legacy since we were apes.
Okay, give me
The
one
third-
second.
the third-
I just want
can
to
I
write this
just-
down. I just
you
want to write
want-
this down. So,
All right, you want to write it down? Yeah, write it down.
taste. So taste pleasure. Basically.
Taste pleasure is one.
Um,
Then the
what's
second one is it's ingrained within the culture of our species.
Okay.
Third one is it has nutritional value. So we're talking about B complex vitamins, B6, B12. So
That's actually a good argument, but you're not the one that should be making it.
it has some nutritions in it. And the fourth argument is we are and still remain on top of the food chain. You heard all these arguments before.
You heard all these arguments before. I'm not bringing anything new to the table. It's just gonna be another one of these quote unquote vegan debates where you just school me because I'm a cock.
But those are my four main arguments.
Okay. Well, let's attack them one at a time.
Do you see what I'm saying? Anybody else get the sense that this shit ain't real? And look, I'm not saying that it's necessarily it was fixed or to what degree it was fixed or how much Brave New World understands what's going on, but one way or another, he's being set up here. This is it's just so silly, man. It's so easy to see through this. And the dynamic between these two guys is very telling. I'm not saying it's telling us exactly what's going on, but you get the idea.
Uh, taste pleasure. That sounds ridiculous. You know, humans taste like pork, right? And especially sweet and
Did you know that? Did you? Why not? I mean, everybody knows this, right? Humans just taste like pork. Oh, Jesus Christ.
tender pork, apparently. There's actually a huge problem in Uganda with cannibalism, and you can talk to some of these people. They're pretty much like addicted to eating human flesh. They say it's like the most tasty meat they've ever had, and like if it's available in a market, like they pretty much can't resist. So, is taste pleasure good enough reason to kill and eat a human?
This isn't. I mean, it might not even be a fact, but it's for them sure not a well-known fact. So this is where I would ask. I mean, I would never even get to this point in the debate, but I would ask if this is where I find myself. I would ask for some evidence to back these crazy ass claims. I mean, I'm not saying they're not true, but prove it.
No, because I think it is our own species, and we have norms and values, and of course we have the law stating that you cannot kill a human being just to eat
Okay.
it. To
Well,
eat an
there
animal.
are
To
there
eat
are
it.
So what's with all the giggling, man? So see, this is the problem with allowing your opponent to make all these logical claims, i.e., people equal animals, right? Because now you find yourself at a juncture where you're basically refuting that without really being clear and explicit, and maybe yourself understanding exactly what it is you're saying because you didn't refute it in the first place, right? You shouldn't even have to be here. You shouldn't even have to get to this point. And now you're struggling, because to you this is so obvious perhaps that humans are not animals, and you just kind of find it silly that your opponent thinks that humans are animals and animals are humans, or that they're the same at the very least on some level, a level that he never defined, because you never questioned him about it. So you're not really understanding one another, and maybe that's why there's all this giggling going on, because Vegan Gains is setting you up, and you're just giggling because he seems to think that he's got this wacky idea that eating people is the same as eating animals, right? And you don't quite understand what's going on. Fucking A.
All right.
okay. Well, there are actually indigenous tribes people who've practiced cannibalism for quite some time. Typically, it's not something that usually happens for all that long of a time because humans, especially if you eat the brain matter, there's these things called prions, and it can cause like this neurological disease where you can't sleep and then you end up getting like tremors and shit. And that's actually, I think that's where the idea of zombies came from. Some of
It's
these.
So he goes from all this esoteric knowledge without quoting, any research to basically a myth. But you're just going to take it all at face value because why? It's a debate, man. You got to contest everything.
Cannibal
thing.
tribes.
As a base point,
But
oh, sorry.
but listen, in those cultures, it's perfectly normal and acceptable to eat meat eat human flesh. And actually, some of these people have developed a genetic resistance to kuru. That's the disease you get from eating human flesh, especially brain matter. So yeah, I mean,
Okay, where's the research on this? Because I don't know, man. Sounds like a bit of a stretch. I'm not saying it's not true, but where's the evidence?
eating human flesh has been part of at least some human cultures. So is it morally acceptable?
No.
Of course it isn't, because he doesn't think that animals have the same rights as people. And you, vegan gains, have not even attempted to convince them. So you're not even really debating one another. You're not talking to one another. You're talking past one another. And I question if these two guys even understand this. And if one of them does, and perhaps that's vegan gains, he's just being let's just say slick.
Okay.
That's a short answer. And furthermore, I find it interesting that you would find these aboriginal tribes, these outliers to the rule, so to say, and take that as a base point of this argument. Why would you do
Well,
that?
okay, well, no, I gave the argument that, okay, well, or sorry, you gave the argument that taste pleasure, it makes it acceptable to kill animals. I said, well, humans taste fucking great.
Yeah, that was one of his arguments. He had four. I mean, they're all weak as shit. But I understand the pragmatism in debunking his points one by one, but ultimately, you got to debunk his claims. You have to ultimately debunk them all at once or eventually. Yeah.
There are actual people who practice cannibalism. And then you said, well, it's still not right because there are cultural norms and laws. So basically, social contract is what you're arguing here.
Well,
Laws run a
cultural
bit.
norms.
That's a strawman argument. He's not arguing social contract. He just said it was illegal. That's not a social contract. That's the law. There is a difference. I mean, you could use the social contract to argue that same exact thing, but that's not what he did.
Laws. We're talking
Well,
about laws here.
Well,
You know.
no.
Yeah, and he pointed that out, right? So he seems to understand the social contract and the difference between that and the legal law.
It's the same kind of thing. Social contracts are just a little bit of a higher level than laws. It's more of an
Higher level? What?
implicit, or sorry, it's more of an explicit moral rule than an implicit social moral rule.
Yeah, the social contract is implied and the law is explicit. And they're two different things, even though they sometimes overlap, but only insofar as they dictate similar behaviors here and there. They're still not the same.
But it's basically the same thing. If you're going to argue laws, then you're essentially arguing for social contract. It's pretty much the same thing. Laws aren't always totally. It's basically part of the same sphere. So, like the law, thou like you shouldn't kill someone. That's really part of the social contract. Now,
No, it isn't. That's the legal contract. The social contract is something different.
a law that says you can't park in a certain place between 5 and 6.
Right? And the reason why that might be significant is because, and really, you should have never gotten to this point, but the reason why I'm pointing out the difference is because these indigenous tribes, they don't have any legal laws, right? They play by their own rules. So it is what it is.
Not exactly part of the social contract. It's more of
Not exactly part of the kind of part of the. Shut up.
it's something more made for revenue generation for like a city, and it kind of helps things run better. It's still kind of connected, but it's not the same. But you're basically arguing for social contract there, and there are
No, he isn't. He's just strawmanning him because he probably wants to steer the conversation in a certain direction so that he could, debunk a strawman.
social contracts in some societies that allow for cannibalism.
Yeah, but I don't agree with those.
Well, there you go. That's exactly right. You're arguing for he realizes that some of these societies, they don't have any laws. And Brave New World, he's talking about legal law, right? And Vegan Gains wants to equate that to the social contract because he realizes that these indigenous tribes, they don't have any legal law. So, strawman like a motherfucker.
cultures, I think they're backwards.
Right.
Their norms and
Well,
values are completely off the charts. They're
okay, so
not cultures
great,
that I would agree with at all,
great,
and
great. So then you agree.
most people in the West don't.
Right. So then you agree that social contract isn't a logical justification for killing an animal.
What? There's another straw man. He just pulled that one straight out of his ass, huh?
No, I don't agree. I
He's like perplexed and confused because he's getting straw man. Like, oh God, this is awful, man.
I think
Well, that's what you used as the argument.
no, I don't agree with you there. It's
That's literally what you used as the argument. Like
No, he didn't.
I can bring this back again. So you
Okay, let's pay attention.
said that taste pleasure is what it justifies killing an animal. It's one of the reasons, and we have to go through each thing point
correct.
by point.
Yeah.
So then I said, well, humans taste great, and there are cultures who practice cannibalism, and like individual people who practice cannibalism.
Humans taste great. I mean, that's an assumption, I suppose. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but they taste great to those people. They don't. How do you know they taste great to people who don't eat people? How do you know that? You don't know that. This argument doesn't make any sense. Not that this should even be discussed in the first place, but this is just a bullshit-ass argument. Just because certain people like the flavor of people, and again, we're gonna have to assume that they do. I mean, they could be doing it because they want to usurp their life force or power or wisdom or whatever the fuck they believe. Maybe they're doing it because there's nothing else to eat. Who knows why they do that? But fine. Maybe they do it just because of taste pleasure, right? That still doesn't mean that any other society, Western society, would enjoy the taste of human meat, right? It doesn't. And, these indigenous tribes, they play by their own rules.
And then you said, well, it's still not okay because we have laws and social contracts that go against that sort of thing.
That go against.
Yeah, we have laws and not social contracts, just laws. I mean, I'm sure he believes in the social contract. I don't know. But he didn't say that specifically, right? Yeah, okay, we have laws. They don't.
Murder that go against.
Yeah. But there are
murdering
certain
a
cultures
human being.
Yeah, exactly.
To eat them. So
Yeah. And there's certain
we're
cultures
not
that
talking
don't
about
have
the
that.
same thing. You're talking about humans. I talk about animals.
Exactly, but you should have called them out on that. You need to make them present this logic where humans are animals and animals are humans, right? You failed to do that, which is why you guys are so confused right now. So it's your fault, Brave New World, that you didn't call him out on his bullshit in the very beginning, or at least make him prove his theory, substantiate it with something. And now he's using that against you because you already moved past that point. And okay, fine, you're calling him out on that now, but not explicitly to a point where he gets to kind of get away with pushing the bullshit, right? Because you guys you didn't clear that up as soon as it came up. Now you're just talking past each other. You're not even communicating right now.
So I don't get your logic.
Okay, no.
Of course he doesn't get your logic because you never made him explain his logic in the first place.
No, you're skipping topics here. So
No. You're the one who skipped the topic.
you're using the argument that social contract is what makes it wrong to kill and eat a human being.
He never said social contract.
Well, there are cultures that have social contracts where that's morally permissible.
Okay, well, it makes sense why he's been pushing the social contract because he realizes that these cultures, they don't have legal laws, right? Like we do. So he has to basically equate social contract with legal law. And look, Yeah, they're similar, and again, I said Brave New World probably does believe in the social contract. So, you know, you could find better ways of getting him to admit that. But to just make this leap from legal law to social contract when he never did that, that's still a strawman argument. And now I see why he did that, and that's because Brave New World is talking about legal law, which is what he respects, and Vegan Gains realizes that this indigenous society, they don't have any legal laws. They just go by, they have a different kind of social contract. Not only do they not have legal laws, their social contract is completely different than our social contract. So, man, this fallacious line of reasoning it needs to be called out.
Yeah,
So
but I say those cultures are backwards and should be banned. So I don't,
right.
Jesus Christ, what's up with all these authoritarians, man? They want to go into foreign countries, the Amazon jungle or wherever, and tell these people what they can and cannot do? Did they eat your friend? As long as they're eating each other, what the fuck that got to do with you? Are they threatening you, eating you, or eating someone you know? Quit acting like you give a fuck about whoever they eat.
I
So
would
so then
reject these cultures.
right, exactly. So your basis for taste pleasure is completely mute because you
No,
rely
it
on
still
social
stands
contracts.
that taste pleasure, eating an animal to me is justifiable also for food enjoyment because we love eating meat and
Right, but
and,
why is it
and
wrong to
that justifies killing an animal but not a human being.
Okay, and why? Just go through it and explain again.
Is this a real debate, man? I think we're done here. So, Brave New World is basically saying like people are not animals, and Vegan Gains is asking him to explain why when that's a fact. That's just a fact. People and animals are different, which is why we eat them. But he's shifting the burden of proof on Brave New World, and Brave New World is either, you know, been told to act like a dummy, or he just doesn't know how to debate. This is either fixed or he just got set up. And, they're not communicating. They're not talking to each other. They're not trying to understand one another. When Vegan Gains keeps pushing his ideology, Brave New World, maybe he snickers because he's just like, this is so weird and quirky. This guy literally thinks that people are animals when that's just not the case, right? But he's not expressing that. He's just kind of laughing it off and not understanding. Whereas Vegan Gains just maybe perhaps because he's not getting called out on his bullshit, is just smirking and maybe just having some fun and being deceitful. Or maybe they just set this up to be this dumbass mock debate in the first place. I don't know, but I'm done looking at this shit because this is just, it's ridiculous. There's nothing to be gained from this. None of these 12-year-olds that watch Vegan Gains' channel are going to learn anything from this. It's just useless. This is useless. This is just, it's silly. It's stupid. I don't know what's up with this guy, if he's just picking low-hanging fruit or what it is he's doing. But anytime he feels like growing a pair of balls and actually debating somebody who will completely and utterly destroy his entire position and prove once and for all that veganism as an ideology doesn't have a leg to stand on, well, I'm ready, willing, and able to do exactly that. So I'm going to send this video to Vegan Gains. I'm going to send it to Brave New World also, so you can see how the fuck he got cucked, unless he already knows. And yeah, maybe if you're listening and you're interested in that debate, put a good word in for me, because this kid is easy work. Thank you for listening. I am out of here.